On the 12th of February, South Korea's National Intelligence Service held a closed-door briefing in the National Assembly. During the briefing, they announced a piece of news that shocked the international community. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has already moved his daughter, Kim Ju-ae, from the stage of succession training to the stage of officially designating her as his successor. Intelligence indicates that this girl, reportedly only 13 years old, has now already begun to offer her opinions on certain North Korean policies. This marks the official move of the Kim dynasty towards a fourth generation of succession with Kim Ju-ae. She is very likely to become North Korea's first female supreme leader. Today, let's talk about a news story, one about power and bloodlines, and how 3 generations have, in the 21st century, used the oldest method of all, family inheritance, to rule a country. If this is your first time seeing me on True Perspective, we focus on the stories behind the news. Sometimes we take 15 to 20 minutes to clearly explain the ins and outs of some trending events. We lay it all out for you in one go so you understand it thoroughly. If you enjoy this kind of content, do remember to subscribe. That way, in YouTube's vast sea of content, you'll be able to see us on your YouTube homepage and catch our videos regularly. You'll also see my latest video recommendations. If you've already subscribed, then you're one of our old friends. So may I ask all our old friends to please give me a like now? Thank you very much. Let's turn back the clock to a day in November 2022. North Korea's state media suddenly released a rather unusual photograph. In this photo, a little girl with a ponytail is holding her father's hand with a massive intercontinental ballistic missile in the background. She's wearing a white puffer jacket and appears to be smiling slightly. The state media, KCNA, used 4 words to introduce the girl: beloved daughter. This was Kim Ju-ae's first public appearance. At that time, she was about 9 years old. Since then, Kim Ju-ae's appearances have been fast-tracked. Fast forward to 2023, she attended numerous events with Kim Jong-un, including military parades, fireworks displays and New Year performances. In October 2024, she also took part in the celebrations for the 79th anniversary of the founding of the Workers' Party. In April 2025, she appeared at the launch ceremony of a destroyer. In May, she attended the Victory Day celebrations in Russia, and in September, she accompanied her father on her first official visit to Beijing. At the start of the new year in 2026, Kim Ju-ae, together with her parents, visited Komsasan. They paid their respects at the Sun Palace, where the bodies of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are laid to rest, considered the most sacred symbol of the legitimacy of the North Korean regime. Kim Ju-ae's participation in such events is the clearest signal yet of her status as successor. Most crucial of all is the South Korean intelligence agency. At present, there are already signs that Kim Ju-ae has begun to express her views on certain North Korean state policies. She is not merely a passive attendee at these events, she even listens attentively on site and helps to resolve difficulties, offering her own opinions on the implementation of policy measures. A 13-year-old girl giving her input, well, we all know what that really means, don't we? South Korean intelligence agencies have therefore speculated that she has already begun to take part in policy-making discussions. This shows that she has already moved from being groomed as a successor behind the scenes. She has now been formally trained as the successor and has already started to step into the spotlight to participate in state affairs. In recent footage, Kim Ju-ae, her height has already surpassed her father's, and she often walks side by side with Kim Jong-un, rather than following behind him. In photos released by North Korean media, she's able to appear in the same frame as the supreme leader. Standing shoulder to shoulder is extremely rare and carries significant symbolic meaning. A South Korean MP said that judging from Kim Ju-ae's role in public events, Kim Ju-ae is already regarded as the de facto second in command in North Korea, yet she's only 13 years old. Children of this age in other countries might still be worrying about exams, feeling anxious, or troubled by the woes of adolescence. But in Pyongyang, Kim Ju-ae has already started to offer policy suggestions. There is very little public information about Kim Jong-un's past. She is the only publicly known child of Kim Jong-un and his wife Ri Sol-ju. In 2013, after the former American basketball star Dennis Rodman visited North Korea, he inadvertently revealed in an interview that he had held Kim Jong-un's baby, Jue, at the time. This was the first time the outside learned her name. South Korea's National Intelligence Service believes that Kim Jong-un should have at least 3 children. Apart from Kim Jue, there is also an older son. It is believed that he was born around 2010 and may be secretly studying abroad. Therefore, he has never been acknowledged or appeared in North Korea media. There is also the youngest child, a little son, who was born around 2017. At present, the gender is still unknown. Of the 3 children, only Kim Jue appears frequently, while the elder brother remains invisible. This has also become the focal point of the succession controversy in North Korea. The question is, in such a highly patriarchal society, why would the daughter be given priority? In the eyes of many defectors and analysts, it is extremely unlikely for a woman to rule North Korea. As a result, there has been all sorts of speculation from the outside world. Some say that the son might be in poor health, while others believe he does not meet Kim Jong-un's expectations. Some say he has spent too long abroad and has become too westernized, making him unsuitable to rule North Korea. Another question is, even if it is Kim Jue, why is there such a rush? Kim Jong-un still appears young and seemingly healthy, so why at this moment would he push a daughter who is only 13 years old into the position of successor? It's a puzzling move that leaves historians scratching their heads. Friends, what do you think is the reason Kim Jong-un is introducing Kim Jue at this time? Is it firstly because something is wrong with Kim Jong-un's health and he needs to make arrangements in advance, even letting a 13-year-old girl start getting involved in state affairs? Or secondly, is he deliberately prolonging the process, giving his daughter more time to be groomed, letting her start from an early age, so that she can get used to the workings of the Kim family's power from a young age? Which possibility do you think is more likely? Pay attention now. It's about which possibility you think is more likely, not which outcome you would prefer. If it were about preference, I believe many friends would obviously choose the former. Now, let's get back to talking about Jin Shui. There's very little information about them that we know from the outside world. However, it's said that his childhood was extremely luxurious. According to South Korean intelligence, he lived in the Yuanshan seaside villa area where there was a swimming pool and a water slide. There were tennis courts and a private gym. Jin Shui enjoyed horse riding, swimming and skiing. He most likely received a home education in Pyongyang with private tutors and did not attend public school. In 2023, there were reports that his family lived in the Yuanshan resort area, which was like a paradise on earth. Although the North Korean authorities have never released any details about him, since his first public appearance in 2022, his image has risen rapidly. He has been mythologized by the media and the entire North Korean people, from being called the beloved daughter to being elevated to respected daughter and even addressed with the honorific title of great leader. This is very obvious with Kim Jong-un. Is he deliberately being shaped as the 4th generation symbol of the Paektu bloodline in the Kim family? The Kim family has already ruled North Korea for over 70 years. It has always been a hereditary family regime, and one of the most important aspects of this is that this is a very important and central political concept, as well as an ideological one. That is the Paektu bloodline. So, what exactly is this, and where did it come from? Well, this story has to start 78 years ago. Let's start with Kim Jue's great-grandfather, Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung was originally named Kim Song-ju and was born in 1912 in Pyongyang. He was born into an ordinary farming family in Mangyeongdae, on the outskirts of the city. Later, North Korean propaganda recast this, portraying him as coming from a line of anti-Japanese rebels, destined by his ancestors to save the nation. This trick is nothing new. It is much like how the CCP exaggerated Mao Zedong's background too. The method of promoting a revolutionary family is exactly the same, all just propaganda and fabrication. After all, Kim Il-sung's father, Kim Hyong-ji, also took part in anti-Japanese activities. Mainly, he lived in exile in China, practicing medicine in the northeast, while secretly carrying out anti-Japanese propaganda. His mother was Kang Pan-sok. Later on, North Korean propaganda agencies dubbed her the Mother of Korea. However, at that time, their whole family was living in exile in Manchuria. Their turbulent life was rewritten by North Korean state media. It was turned into an epic, grand and magnificent tale. As a young man, Kim Song-ju was exposed to communist ideas while studying in Jilin. After the Japanese invasion of China in the 1930s, he changed his name to Kim Il-sung and joined the anti-Japanese resistance in the northeast. The Allied forces fought guerrilla battles around the Changbai Mountains. The fighting was brutal and the guerrilla units were repeatedly encircled and suppressed by the Japanese army. In 1940, he led the remaining troops to escape into the Soviet Union. In the Far East, he became an internationalist fighter under Stalin's protection. In 1945, when Japan surrendered, the Soviet Red Army entered northern Korea. At the time, the 33-year-old Kim Il-sung, as the agent carefully selected by the Soviet, returned with the Soviet Navy. From then on, he was installed in Pyongyang by Stalin, becoming the most obedient puppet of the Soviets in the north. In 1948, under the protection of the Soviet Union, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea was established. Kim Il-sung became the first Prime Minister. In 1950, acting on Stalin's instructions, he launched an invasion of the South. This war turned the entire Korean peninsula into a battlefield. The devastation led to the deaths of several million people. Cities and villages alike were reduced to scorched earth, and the war ultimately ended in a stalemate at the 38th parallel. However, after the war, Kim Il-sung also took the opportunity to his advantage. He thoroughly purged any dissentive. He shifted all the blame for the suffering onto American imperialism, thereby consolidating his own rule. After the war, Kim Il-sung began to establish his own ideology. He loudly proclaimed that man is the master of everything and called for self-reliance, at least on the surface. He propagated to the people the rejection of the Soviet model, but in reality, how was North Korea rebuilt? It was highly dependent on massive aid from the Soviet Union and the Chinese Communist Party. By the 1950s, he implemented land reforms and soon after rapidly achieved agricultural collectivization, as well as the collectivization of urban industry and commerce. Everything was nationalized, in other words, brought under state ownership, essentially the whole planned economy system. In a short period of time, the North, relying on its industrial base and foreign aid, saw a significant rise in living standards. It even surpassed the South, but this was merely an illusion of the communist planned economy. By the 1970s, the North Korean economy stagnated and living standards plummeted. This laid the fatal groundwork for the devastating famine during the Kim Jong-il era that followed. Running parallel to this economic failure was the most extreme and absurd personality cult established by Kim Il-sung. At that time, statues of him were erected everywhere throughout North Korea, both in cities and the countryside, and his portraits were hung everywhere. Even in the toilets, his portrait had to be displayed. Centered around him, his birthday, 15th April, was designated as a special day. The Day of the Sun became the most grand religious-like festival in all of North Korea. Why do I call it a religious-like festival? We'll discuss that later, so do stay tuned, friends. Be sure to watch until the end. This is also a key reason why the Kim family in North Korea has managed to maintain hereditary rule for 4 generations. His parents were also deified, especially his mother, who was extolled as the mother of North Korea. Her life story was mythologized for the whole nation to worship. This house setup is exactly the same as Mao Zedong's personality cult movement. In order to hold on to power, Kim Il-sung also carried out brutal purges within the party. In the early 1950s, he carried out a bloody purge. The South Labour Party consisted of communists sent from the South. Then, in the 1960s, he massacred the Gapson faction, who were early guerrilla fighters. Among them were those who disagreed with him, old comrades in arms who did not see eye to eye with him. Through these massacres, he completely eliminated any potential rivals and established an absolute system of loyalty centered on the so-called Paektu bloodline. That is to say, only those with revolutionary bloodlines who had fought as guerrillas alongside Kim Il-sung were regarded as his most reliable base of rule. So here we come back to the Paektu bloodline again. This is the Kim family's religious style rule. One of the core concepts in North Korea is the Kim family. The dynasty's key political ideology that has enabled 4 generations of hereditary succession. We'll go into detail about this part later on. Then, moving forward, we come to 1994. Kim Il-sung suddenly suffered a heart attack and passed away in Pyongyang at the age of 82. He ruled North Korea single-handedly for as long as 46 years, turning a post-war wasteland into a highly centralized state. In 1998, North Korea amended its constitution to officially honor him as the eternal president of the republic. From then on, this position could no longer be held by any living person. Only Kim Il-sung himself held it at that time. Although he had departed from this world, his portrait, his ideology, and his bloodline continued to cast its shadow over North Korea, becoming the foundation for the later hereditary rule of Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un. After that came the era of Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il was born in either 1941 or 1942 in the Soviet Union. His mother died young, and his younger brother mysteriously drowned. He grew up under the shadow of his father. So what about the 1970s? He entered then. He joined the propaganda and agitation department of the Workers' Party. Just look at that name. In the propaganda and agitation department of the Workers' Party, he further intensified the personality cult surrounding Kim Il-sung. In the 1980s, he was officially designated as the successor. Then in 1994, Kim Il-sung passed away. Afterwards, he took power through the Songun, or military first policy, prioritizing the military over the economy. He succeeded to the leadership. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1990, North Korea fell into a severe famine, resulting in the starvation of hundreds of thousands of people. But Kim Jong-il still lived an extremely lavish lifestyle. It is said that he collected over 2,000 films, with Hollywood action movies being his favourites. He owned 17 palaces and was rumoured to enjoy eating lobster and drinking French brandy. He reportedly had billions of US dollars in secret funds in European banks. He rarely appeared in public and relied on a special train to travel. Later on, he was frequently plagued by health problems. At the end of 2011, he passed away from a heart attack on his special train, and his body was laid to rest alongside his father's at the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun. The Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, Kim Jong-il's rule consolidated the Kim family's hereditary system. He divided the family into the main branch, which refers to the traditional descendants of the principal wife, and the side branches, which are the descendants of concubines or secondary wives. When it comes to succession, priority is given to the main branch. This system was established during his era. Later on, we come to the figure we are all familiar with, Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un spent most of his childhood in Switzerland, according to reports. Swiss media and his classmates recall there, starting from around 1991 or 1998, he attended public and international schools in Bern under the name Paektu. He was registered as a student there. He claimed to be the son of a diplomat. Around the year 2000, Kim Jong-un returned to North Korea and entered Kim Il-sung University. He studied at the military university. In 2010, Kim Jong-il officially named Kim Jong-un as his successor at the party congress. At the end of 2011, Kim Jong-il suddenly died of a heart attack and Kim Jong-un quickly took over power. He became the youngest supreme leader of North Korea. After coming to power, he swiftly consolidated his role. In 2013, this included executions. His uncle by marriage, Jang Song-taek, who was Kim Jong-il's brother-in-law, was once considered to be North Korea's. In 2017, he also ordered the assassination of his half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, at Kuala Lumpur Airport in Malaysia using VX nerve agent. His Kim Jong-nam was the son of his founder, Kim Jong-il, and his mistress, and had once gone into exile overseas. So in 2017, Kim Jong-un had him kinged. Kim Jong-un's family life is also extremely mysterious. Now let's talk about his wealth. This aspect in particular, because we know that North Korea is an extremely poor country, extremely so. The people there, according to the recollections of Defective, often have to eat grass and sometimes even resort to eating rats. But whenever Kim Jong-un appears in public or is caught on camera, even his beloved daughter Kim Ju-ae is always dressed in designer brands. Moreover, Kim Jong-un's personal life is also extremely luxurious. So how did all this wealth come about? It is said that Kim Jong-un amasses it through a mysterious department known as Office 39. This department helps him accumulate billions of US dollars in personal wealth. Despite the United Nations having imposed a complete ban on exports to North Korea since 2006, Luxury goods such as luxury cars, watches, designer handbags, yachts and so on still make their way in. However, these sanctions are virtually meaningless for the Kim family. This is done through operations like Bureau 39, attempting to steal cryptocurrency via hacking. In 2025 alone, it was discovered that over $2 billion had been stolen. There is also the export of arms to the Russian military and drug smuggling. In addition, illegal activities such as cybercrime continue to flow steadily on the international stage. They make money and then use methods such as re-exporting through third countries, ship-to-ship transfers and corrupt intermediaries to circumvent the US embargo. Kim Jong-un himself drives armoured Mercedes Maybachs and Rolls-Royces, luxury cars worth several million US dollars. Even the watches he wears are Rolexes and Patek Philippe's, each worth millions. This includes luxury private yachts and lavish villas. His wife, Ri Sol-ju, has been photographed carrying Hermes, Chanel and Audi handbags. These luxury goods, under the rule of the Kim family, are not only for their personal enjoyment, but also serve another purpose for them. They're used as rewards for the loyalty of North Korean elites. Office 39 is responsible for importing these luxury items. They're distributed as gifts to senior party officials, military generals, intelligence chiefs, and the elite in Pyongyang. It is precisely through these exclusive privileges that they flaunt their status and maintain their position, as well as their gratitude and dependence on Kim Jong-un. Should they ever betray him, not only would they lose their own lives, but their families would also lose everything. However, controlling people's hearts in this way, how shall I put it, is not exactly foolproof, so Kim Jong-un is very much aware of this. He knows full well that these luxury goods and terrifying purges can only control a portion of people. At most. That is, only North Korea's elite class. He cannot make all 25 million North Korean people willingly obey him. So how does he get the people to willingly submit to the Kim family? That relies on something even older and more powerful: faith. Precisely. It is, in fact, a carefully manufactured religion-like faith. It has a name: Paektu bloodline. The Paektu bloodline is the most central and, in their view, the most sacred political concept in North Korea's official ideology. Paektu Mountain is what we Chinese call Changbai Mountain. It is a holy site in Korean national mythology. According to legend, the founding ancestor of the Korean people, Dang-gun, was born here. The Heaven Lake is regarded as the source of the nation's soul. Both North Korea and South Korea regard it as the sacred mountain where their nation originated. What the Kim family has done is this. They've privatized a symbol that belongs to the entire nation, telling all Koreans, Paektu Mountain is not just your sacred mountain, it is, even more so, the sacred mountain of our Kim family. The bloodline of our family flows directly from Paektu Mountain. This concept wasn't created overnight. It was woven together over 3 generations. A colossal lie. During Kim Il-sung's era, Paektu Mountain was merely a sacred site of the anti-Japanese revolution. Such a conceptual thing had not yet been deified, according to the official narrative. In the 1930s, Kim Il-sung led guerrilla forces at Paektu Mountain and established a base there. At that time, the terms most commonly used were Paektu Mountain Revolutionary Tradition or Paektu Mountain Bloodline, referring to those veteran anti-Japanese fighters who followed Kim Il-sung in guerrilla warfare. The entire group of these fighters constituted the Paektu Mountain Revolutionary Tradition, the Paektu Mountain Bloodline. Such a collective term for these people was crucial. This turning point occurred during the era of Kim Jong-il, when, starting from the 1980s, the authorities began to link Paektu Mountain with Kim Jong-il himself. They began to propagate the claim that Kim Jong-il was born in a secret camp on Paektu Mountain. However, the actual genuine historical records show that Kim Jong-il was born in a Korean village in the Russian Far East. As for how the authorities deified him, they even claimed on the day Kim Jong-il was born, friends, listen carefully, on that day a double rainbow appeared in the sky, a sacred star shone, a bright star rose, and magpies flew in. They announced that these were omens from heaven, heralding the arrival of a saviour. Then, on the day Kim Jong-il passed away, the authorities claimed, once again, strange phenomena kept occurring, such as the ice on the summit of Heaven Lake at Mount Paektu splitting open, inscriptions by Kim Jong-il glowing, and red light appearing in the sky, and so on. So there were omens at his birth and omens at his death. It's blatant, really. They tied him together with this national myth and the sacred mountain of the nation, Mount Changbai. This is blatant deification. By the time Kim Jong-un came to power, this whole system had become institutionalized. In 2013, North Korea revised its 10 Great Principles. This document holds more authority than the North Korean constitution and outweighs the party charter. For the first time, the revised version explicitly included the Paektu bloodline. It stated that it must be perpetuated forever and kept absolutely pure. The implication here is crystal clear. At the time, this move was used by Kim Jong-un to consolidate his position as successor, making it official. It was a symbolic act establishing the 3-generation hereditary succession. In other words, it meant that he, Kim Jong-un, is the inheritor of this pure Paektu bloodline. Hereditary succession. In other words, it legitimizes his rise to power. Since then, the Paektu bloodline has become the most frequently used political slogan. Almost every editorial and every mass rally mentions it, this term. So now, the Paektu bloodline has become the basis for the legitimacy of the Kim family's hereditary rule. However, such a basis is entirely fabricated. Moreover, it is completely untenable, having been falsely deified. Within North Korea's propaganda system, this term is almost as pervasive as the brainwashing slogans used by the Chinese Communist Party. It is tantamount to saying that the Kim family is the only legitimate leadership, a mere gimmick. Any challenge or doubt directed at them is regarded as a serious counter-revolutionary crime. To put it bluntly, what the Kim regime is doing is turning the entire population into a religious cult. Not only do they continuously promote this kind of propaganda on a political level, but also through songs, films, statues and so on, as well as through worship ceremonies. They equate loyalty to the Kim family with loyalty to the entire Korean nation. Loyalty to the sacred Mount Paektu, worship at the Kumsisan Palace of the Sun, and pilgrimages to Mount Paektu. These are not ordinary political activities, but rather rituals with a strong religious character. Children in North Korea, from kindergarten onwards, are required to learn about the great achievements of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. They must sing hymns of praise, recite the greatness of the Paektu bloodline, and as they grow up, join the Children's Union, then the Youth League, and finally, only if they are qualified can they join the party. Every step involves taking an oath, and each oath serves to reinforce this belief, this indoctrinated faith that the Kim family represents Mount Paektu, that they are of the Paektu bloodline, that they are sacred, and that questioning this is forbidden. To betray the Kim family is to betray the nation. At this point, clever viewers may already have made a connection with this system. Doesn't it all seem a bit familiar? That's right, the Chinese Communist Party does exactly the same thing, using ideological indoctrination, organisational control, and so on. Ritualised pledges and study sessions ensure that from a young age, people believe the party is great, the party is always right, and that questioning the party is dangerous. Joining the Young Pioneers, the Communist Youth League and the party itself, each step requires a pledge of loyalty. This is not simply a political organisation, but one with a religious undertone. The only difference is that North Korea directs its worship towards a single family, a single bloodline, the Kim family, whereas the Chinese Communist Party demands that people place their reverence in a more abstract concept, the party itself. But in truth, the core, the essence, is exactly the same, my friends. What do you think? Isn't it? Have a careful think about it. I truly believe what I've said makes a lot of sense. If you see it the same way, please do give me a like to let me know, or leave a comment to share your thoughts with me. That's the story so far. Let's return to the 12th of February, back to this 13-year-old girl, Kim Jong-il. She stands in the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun before the portraits of her great-grandfather and grandfather. She bows in respect before them. At this moment, what she bears is not just the weight of a family. 78 years of power is, even more so, a vast illusion woven by 3 generations through lies, terror, and religious belief. Will she become North Korea's first female supreme leader? It's very possible. Right, that's all for today. Thank you, friends, for watching. If you enjoyed my programme, don't forget to give me a like before you leave. To new friends, you're welcome to subscribe to True Perspective. Friends, what do you think about this 13-year-old? This girl, Kim Jong-il, has officially entered North Korean politics and formally began participating in political affairs. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment and share them with me. All right, that's all for today. Thank you all for watching.